Well, the sky's the limit. Well, that's a bit exaggerated, of course. Yeah, but of course it's important to whet your appetite. So, can I press the button somewhere? Will it work? All right, it is working. Now, Die Zeit. That's a paper I represent. 20 years ago, we were facing the abyss. A lot of magazines and newspapers were doing really well. They had a lot of money. They had photographers that they sent to South Africa. They came back 3 months later with great, great pictures. And of course, they were all flying first class around the world. Well, we always flew economy. And we also picked cheap hotels. And now, of course, money is a bit tight, and now everyone's jumped on the bandwagon. Now, a lot of newspapers and magazines had their headquarters back then. We're still there. The offices have been refurbished. There are glass doors that are everywhere. There's a lot of communication. We're piled atop each other. There's a lot of action going on, and a lot of fun can be had. Well, with Sirius, Gräfin Dönhoff, and Helmut Schmidt, you all know these persons. Well, they come from Hamburg, and they're quite stingy. A publisher like Mr. Oberauer will like that, as well as Mr. von Holzbrink, because we don't splurge a lot of money. Die Zeit, well, that's something that's very helpful to us. You know, we work very efficiently, and we are making money. We are an economic enterprise, after all, but it's not just about making money. Mr. Bucerius and Countess Dönhoff, well, they founded Die Zeit at the time in order to boost Germany's young democracy in the aftermath of the war and the atrocities of the war. So they wanted to help this young democracy thrive. They wanted to give a boost to society, and this is still part of Die Zeit's DNA. And that's why a lot of people love working for Die Zeit. And that's why the mood prevailing in-house is quite pleasant. Well, of course, some people have inflated egos. Some people may actually appear quite arrogant or condescending. But what we do is we focus on our readers. That's very important to us, and we are not preaching to them. We do things together with our readers. We have been doing this for a number of years. We're cooperating with our readers. Now, 20 years ago, as I said before, we were facing an abyss, and of course, we don't want to ever face a situation again. Now, everyone's saying that we should focus on brands, we should diversify. Well, we have been doing this for 20 years already, which of course is quite helpful these days. Because we're making less money, because we have fewer classifieds than in the past, and the money stream or the revenue stream has dwindled here. Now, high-quality journalism, how can it survive? This is what the Zeit editorial team asks itself all the time, as was said by Gabor Steingart in his keynote address last night. Journalism survives provided it focuses on the readers, the target group that journalists want to reach. And we can only do this together with our readers, and not by preaching to them. We don't want to impose our views on the readers. Rather, we interact quite closely with them. We have been quite innovative. Martin Kotenek drew up an innovation report, by the way, and we've launched an initiative called Freunde der Zeit, Friends of Die Zeit. All of our subscribers, well, they don't need to just fork out the money once a year to get their paper. No, we've actually made them friends. We've turned them into friends, meaning they get a newsletter every week informing them about the goodies that they get from us. Well, we provide information on events, and we invite them to our premises. We send them WhatsApp messages and we inform them about how the Zeit is produced and why a certain article has been picked by the editor-in-chief. And Zeit products can also be purchased at more favorable prices. There is the Zeit Academy. They can also travel with us, so we take care of our readers. And this means that we have been able to preserve the retention rate as well as the conversion rate. So we used to have quite a number of temporary subscriptions, and now we have full-time subscriptions. Now, the motto used to be different. Only bad news is good news. That's what everyone said. That was the mantra of the past. But now we're doing really well. We have been growing for 20 years in terms of our sales. The sales figures are going up, and we are a profitable business, which is due to the Zeit Cosmos, this world that we have built up. Now, the core element, of course, still is the cash cow, die Zeit, which is published on a weekly basis. There's still a focus on print. 85% read our print edition, and 15% of our readers read the digital edition. Well, I love digital subscriptions as a commercially minded person. No newsprint necessary, no felling of trees up in Finland, no trucks that ship the newsprint somewhere, no physical deliveries of die Zeit. The digital subscription is quite convenient. You can download the edition Wednesday night, you can do all the reading you want, and what we get is information about our readers and their reading patterns, and then we can submit targeted offers to them. So the central element, the core element, or the cash cow still is die Zeit. But then over and above that, you have a large number of magazines. Die Zeit Leo, that's the magazine for the 5 to 12-year-old demographic. And then there's also Zeitverbrechen. It's about crime, real crime or crimes that have been perpetrated, and those crimes have been covered by our journalists. Now, we want to reach out to our readers, to our committed readers. We want to accompany them. We want to support them throughout their lives, from the cradle to the grave. And we want to help them professionally. We want to give them information in terms of leisure time activities, and we want to make their lives as pleasant as possible. We have a host of magazines revolving around our main product. It's supplements that are contained inside Zeitgeld, money, golfing, health, and other sections or supplements. It's also standalone magazines such as Die Zeit Studienführer for students, Zeit Campus, another magazine for students, then something for scientists, for historians, something about art, and we've also come up with magazines with a language focus. We started out early on. We have already reached out to the kids. We've got reading competitions. 200,000 volunteers are helping us. They've reached out to the schools and the preschools. So we start out really, really early. Now, getting subscribers that are 25 years old because they see some advertising or commercials somewhere and maybe they win some cups of coffee. Well, believing that, of course, is not the right approach. We need to start it really early. We need to pick up our readers quite early. And that's why we have reached out to the kids for quite a while. So we've got a lot of magazines that we offer to our readers, and there's also Zeit Online, which has existed ever since 2008. Now, Mr. Obauer might be interested in learning more about this. During the first year, losses actually exceeded sales, which of course does not make a lot of sense commercially. So that was the trend that we observed for 2 to 3 years. But for 2 to 3 years now, Zeit Online has gotten out of the red. So we're making money. So if you don't have the time to actually read our weekly, which is quite valuable, you might actually have a foolhardy idea. You might actually cancel. You might want to cancel our subscription, and of course we don't want that. We use all kinds of legal tricks to avoid this. But if people actually cancel, the subscription, well, they may switch over to Zeit Online, and they can read a lot. So the online edition offers a lot of information. There's also corporate publishing. There are conferences that we organize. There is a platform for high potentials, for scholarships. There's also something available for students, for high school students. And then we have more than 200 events every year. So a lot of things are going on, and we're juggling many different projects. Now, our business, of course, is based on 3 pillars that I would like to just mention in passing. I'm not going to go into too much detail, because otherwise the facilitator will push me off the stage, and we know that he's a big guy who could do that. So let me just pick out a few elements. Now, the most important pillar, of course, is sales. It's what we do for our readers. The subscription, of course, ranks very high. Then subscriptions for our magazines. The Spotlight Publishing House is also listed here. And then, of course, our shop, our merchandise. We've got wonderful products, handmade product, Zeitreisen, a travel business. 5,000 people have joined us. Today, for example, 2 buses leave for a 15,000-kilometer trip from Hamburg all the way to Shanghai. So it's more than 50 people, 54 people that cart them to Shanghai. And then there will be some trips involving aircraft also to Shanghai. Well, it's a luxury trip, of course. People don't spend nights on the buses, but they have a look at Central Asian countries such as Uzbekistan, and the hotels where they're accommodated are quite beautiful. So what this shows is that our Zeit readers love us as well as the community. Now, spending 55 days on a bus with Zeit readers, doesn't this sound like heaps of fun? Anyway, 50% of our turnover is accounted for by B2C. Then, of course, vacancies, recruiting. We have a lot of smart readers, a lot of professional readers, a lot of students, many people who are high potentials who are about to enter the job market. And that's why we focus on recruiting and vacancy notices.
This also makes up for a big share of our sales figures, so we can rely on the first 2 pillars. As to the 3rd pillar, it constitutes our B2 business, conference business, and of course the wonderful print ad business that of course is booming and is going through the roof. This is something that has to be advertised every year, and we start from scratch every year, and this is where we make 31% of our sales figures. This is the business area which is most volatile and where we have to put in the most of effort. Let's talk about the individual pillars. I would just like to take one example, respectively, that is reason for joy. We have introduced the Z Plus, Zeit Plus. This is a very, very, very nice signpost that we set up. If our users come across Zeit articles, if you come across the gray Z, you are cordially invited to provide us with your email address, and then we'll provide you with more information. Now we have already 500,000 readers that have showed their interest in this offer and have provided us with their email address that we, of course, use solely for interactions between us and our readers. Then we have the red Z+. This stands for articles that we value that much, that we invite our users to obtain a 4-week trial subscription. Meanwhile, some readers have already accepted this offer, and of this, just under 10,000 annual subscriptions could be reaped. This is a very nice figure. That is reason for joy. Z Plus works very well and has just received a wonderful media award for that. For the area of classifieds, job ads and recruiting, well, what is the special and new and novel and nice thing about it? BOA, which stands for Berufsorientierungsangebote, career orientation offers. We have many students reading our magazine. We have Zeit Campus, we have Zeit Campus Online that is heavily used by university students. At the Zeit platform, we provide them with a lot of information about career opportunities, and we also work together with companies and with graduates that are just about to finish their studies. We invite students to do an aptitude test at the Zeit online web presence, and we ask them if the results of the aptitude test can also be used and can also be fed into a database and made available to companies, and those who agree with that will later on be actively contacted by companies taking a look at these profiles and being interested in these young people and inviting these young people. Of course, this test is free of charge for the university students, and we ask companies for a little financial contribution. This is not that innovative. Well, to have profiles and to do profile matching instead of just having classified ads. But it's a real first in Germany, and 6 months after we launched that offer, Stepstone, the biggest career platform, also came up with the idea of wanting to work with matching. Then the third area, B2B business, agency business, is also reason for joy. And I would like to mention Zeit Academy. We started with this offer 5 years ago because we thought that our readers that are more advanced in age would like to delve deeper into the philosophy, into the history, into the political realm, nutrition, diet, psychology, all these topics. And you might be familiar with the fact, well, if you retire, you want to read up on a lot of stuff. And many people of this age go to university, and sometimes they are ridiculed and laughed at a little bit. They are being perceived as silverbacks. And we wanted to provide our readers that are more advanced in age with this offer, wanted to give them the opportunity to rely on this information at home, to access this information at home, all cozy in the living room and listening to lecturers on DVD. We worked on this concept, we tweaked it, and this thing was in the red figures every year, and then some co-worker came up with the brilliant idea of offering this concept to companies. We started working on topics that companies are interested in, negotiation techniques, digitization. Companies are feeding in this information into their networks. We also work with the stars in this business, and it has worked out quite well. So we are in the black again. The Time Academy is happy with that, and we make many companies and many employees of these companies happy. This is a good thing. Everything can be very fast. The performance ability of technology is increasing very rapidly. Say goodbye to the waterfall method. Today, no one can know everything today, and this is why you should focus on exactly the technologies that are relevant for you and your B2B business. I think this is enough. I do not like this music. And here it was again. Can we learn to be lucky, to be happy? Of course, you have to make an effort from time to time. You have to be very industrious, and you will be successful in the end. Now, coming to the end, I would like to present to you a very nice case podcast. voice first has been all the rage for 1 year in many living rooms. You might encounter Alexa, this horrible device of Amazon. We do not work with this, and I've never bought anything at Amazon because I want to support the retailers. I want them to stick around. I do not like Amazon and I do not like Alexa, but I cannot prevent them from thriving. And there are ever more of these devices. Google Home and Microsoft and Apple and Samsung are also working on such devices. And we also have to be present on these devices. 6 months ago, we launched 4 podcasts. So we have a daily podcast in the morning on crimes. We have a weekly podcast on current news. We have a daily podcast. And we have a podcast concentrating on topical questions. So we have these 4 podcasts that are available at iTunes and rank places 1 to 4. So we have no ad business here, so we have to invest some money. But with our daily podcast, we have 100,000 people listening to it on a daily basis. And just 2 days ago, yesterday, actually, we got the first booking, 20,000 euros for 1 week. This is quite something. The customers tend to go to where the traffic is, and this is why I'm quite confident that these podcasts will be worthwhile. It's a question of a short time period. And very soon, I think you will have such devices that you can lean back, relax, and listen to the new Die Zeit podcast in the comfort of your own living room. I do not see any borders. This might sound exaggerating, but if you look at the content that your users find interesting, you will come up with new ideas, and you will come up with new ideas of how you can present contents to your readers that might be interesting. Facebook, Google, and co. censor the world, and this ties in with the next topic. Of course, we are also dealing with these companies. Sometimes they are our adversaries, sometimes they support us, and sometimes we embrace them, and sometimes it's also very nice to work with them. Is Google a bogeyman image? We will discuss this in a few minutes. They provide us with a lot of traffic. It's a very important advertising client, and they provide us with a lot of money for many projects. We cannot bring them down. This is not possible, and this is why cooperation is preferable to fighting them. And my bogeyman image, well, this is rather the general data protection regulation, because these rules will prevent that we can make money with high-quality journalism on the web. They wanted to attack Google and Facebook. Google and Facebook are very happy about the general data protection regulation because for them it is good. They have it in their general terms and conditions, and for us it is very, very difficult.